Hey there, this is a little quick TDD, test-driven development session here. We've got Michael, Dan, Sunil, and myself, Sam, and this is a rerun actually. We did this in the one of the main pairing sessions in the event in the Code Extravaganza yesterday. And so the idea here is well actually this is something that Sunil and I have been working on previously. We've got a bit of code here. There's a spec that we're developing to describe a stack. And that's not really got much in it yet at the moment. And we're using the Madeye plugin in Google Hangouts in order to do it. So what I'm going to start off by doing is I'm going to write a little spec here for how we want our stack to behave. So I might say, right, I'm going to have a stack, and then I want to have should I have an it do something on there? Well, anyway, I have stack. Pop and push something onto our stack, and then we'll have an expectation. So we're then going to expect stack pop.
I think you should have an end.
I should have an.
I'm not sure. I'm not going to speak over
Let's see. I might need to have an it. We'll see. I'm going to run rspec from my command line. Now you guys can't see my command line. Oh, I need to save the. It keeps muting me. Let's. The save shortcut key was working yesterday. Let me see if I can get this rspec to run. Yeah, I probably need an it, don't I? Undefined method. Oh no, actually, no. I think that's. Oh no, okay. That seems to be all right in this spec. I guess describe. I guess it's optional. I could have it. Should pop off the last thing pushed onto it, and then end. So this is, I mean, I'm sort of assuming everybody's familiar with the concept of a stack, something we can push things onto and pop them off of. So now if I run that spec from the command line. What I get is actually I did need the it and so on, but I get an error. I get a no method error, which looks actually I'll copy the whole thing here. So I'm gonna. I don't know if you can all see the Google chat on the right hand side, but so I paste. So when I run rspec on the command line for this, it tells me pair exercises should the stack present no method error, undefined method push for pair exercises stack. So this is kind of where we're driving the development of the code. Maybe not with the simplest spec that we could write, but this will do for now. Now we're going to do this sort of little test-driven development game where we switch around and take turns trying to change the error message. So Sunil, can you see the error message in the Google chat?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, and from this error message says no method error, undefined method push. Can you think what we might want to change in our the implementation of our stack so that we can at the very least, change this error message?
Uh, since you're using stack.push,
Yeah. Now you've gone over to the stack.rb file, which is in lib pair exercises.
that's probably me.
You got some background noise there, Michael. Yeah. So we might want to. This is one of the things that.
I think the TV's on in the background.
That's okay. You're gonna mute. Yeah, you want to mute yourself briefly. So
Should we define the class?
yes, well, we've got the class defined. We've got class stack there in stack.rb. Dan, I think you're still in stack_spec.rb. Do you want to come and join us over in lib pair exercises stack.rb? But anyway, Sunil, you should feel free to go ahead and make some change to the stack class so that we can change this error message. What do you think we should have in order? What's the minimum thing we can do in order to start?
Function named push.
Sure. Yeah. Go. We'll just go right ahead. I assume that's you typing, and make it so. Great. Yeah. So now we can any of us can save. There's a little icon to the top, like basically just above the file itself. It says it says lib/pair exercises stack.rb. just to the left of that, there's a little icon which is like a document with a little diskette image by it. If you mouse over it, it will say save file. So Sunil, you could now, having made that change, yep, you can click that, that's saved. On my system, it tells me that that's been saved. I can rerun the RSpec, and in fact, now we get a new error message, and I will paste that in here, and here we go. And it says, so we're now getting a different error. This is argument error, wrong number of arguments, 1 for 0. Now this might be a bit trivial for maybe say Dan, but do you want to try making a change to this file that can now change this error? Cool. And you want to try and save the file as well for me?
Yeah, where's the icon that I click to save it?
Well, yeah. Can you see where the line numbers for the file are? Yeah,
There, I found
you
it.
found it. Well done. Good show. All right, so I'm going to rerun that now. Yeah, so now we're on to a new error, and so this is kind of like this process of change the error is kind of a it's a very low level thing. It would be sort of tedious maybe to do this precisely in a real live project, but particularly when it's you're trying out an environment, when you're feeling your way through new code, having a good understanding of the error messages is really important. So we've got a new one now, which is no method error, undefined method pop. Michael, do you want to take a go at changing this error message? Ah, well, I think that's not going to have the effect maybe that you hoped. Let's see. Um, we're still getting the same error message as before. Do you want to take another look at the error message? So the error message in the chat window there is no method error, undefined method pop. Indeed. Yes. Now you're going there for a hard coding the expected response. You're going, and that I think is where we'd go next. You're going a little further. I would be tempted to just define, this is to take it to keep it on the very, very lowest level, is to first, yeah, just do it like that. And so we would now have, instead of an error, we now get a failure of this kind, which is actually the code is not um, it's not generating a Ruby error. It's now our spec is saying we expected this to respond with a 7 and we got nil. And of course, Michael is thinking ahead, already got the simplest way to make that pass is to add a 7, which I will just do. And now our spec runs, and in fact, everything passes. So
Why is there 7?
well, so that's a very good question. If we look back at stack underscore spec.rb, we can see that what we're doing is we're expecting the thing that we pop off the stack to equal 7, right? And this is the kind of thing, it might seem like that's really obtuse, right? Why are you, pushing back a 7 on the pop there? Clearly that's not the behavior ultimately we want of the stack. But what we're doing here is we're kind of pretending like we're stupid. We're pretending like we're a computer and that we're only doing the absolute minimum necessary in order to make the spec passed. I mean, and by it's sort of in an adversarial coding sort of thing where we take turns in doing it, this is a way of the person who's implementing that method returning a 7 is pointing out that this spec by itself is not sufficient to define the behavior that we want for the stack, if that makes any sense.
One way I like to think about it is that in a sense we're actually testing that the method returns a 7, but in another way we're more or less actually testing the public interface of stack.
Right.
We're testing that push and pop actually exists.
Yes, that's certainly one of the things that we've had to do in order to get to the expectation. Yes, yes, because we are calling those, and we could have started with a simpler spec which said, one, I should be able to create a stack, and then I should have a method name, for push and so on, and we can potentially drive it like that. I don't know. I'm sort of busy experimenting with different ways through. I think you get to see the same error messages doing that. I mean,
Right. No, I mean,
go on.
I think the spec's fine. I'm just saying it's funny because it's like it seems on the surface it seems like well we're testing that we're getting a 7 out of pop, but in a sense, the tests are more or less testing that the
Yeah.
public interface works as we expected.
Yes. Oh, no, no. Well, no, on that you're absolutely right there. I mean, the thing that then comes up now is, and Sunil, maybe this is something you might want to take the lead on here, is what we clearly want to do, because this is, although all of our specs are passing, we clearly don't have kind of the functionality of a stack underneath. So we would now need to modify our spec, or add something to our spec in order to make it so that, to force the underlying implementation to be something that's non-trivial, that works in the way that we expect. So Sunil, can you think of another spec to add, or a way that we would modify this spec so that we can force stack to work properly?
Uh, do we have an error now?
Well, we don't have an error now. There's no error now. The code is doing precisely what the spec is asking of the code. So the thing now is, we don't need, there's no, and with a test-driven development philosophy is, we don't go and make any changes to the code when our tests are green. We need to, if our tests are green, as they are now, and we still haven't got to the right place, that means we haven't defined fully the specification of what we want our code to do. So can you? I don't know. I mean, maybe have you had any experience writing RSpec before? Is that something you haven't seen before?
No, I'm still stuck in behavior development.
Yeah, you're doing Ruby on Rails, and and in this version of the course. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll maybe. I don't
My
know.
confusion still, my confusion still lies in push method, which has argument, but 7 is written on pop function.
Yes.
So
Sure. Well, I guess what's going on here is, what we're saying is, for the stack, we want to be able to push an item onto it, and here we've arbitrarily chosen 7 to be the
yeah,
thing that we push onto it, and then if it's a stack, the normal operation of a stack is, if you push something onto it, if you then immediately pop something off it, you'll get the same thing back. So the idea is that we've pushed this 7 onto the stack, and then we're getting it back. But that's the thing is, although that's the kind of the idea that's set up here, because we're only checking through the public interface that we get a 7 back, that allows Michael to do this sneaky thing of, or indeed of me, to do this just returning 7, right? And that means this will always work. So the thing that we need is, we need some other kind of, I mean, the way I'm tempted to do
yeah,
it is, we need something else like this
yeah,
that says, right, okay,
the push to the stack.
right, if we push something else to the stack, we should then also expect to get that popped off. So if I now add that, and I've now sort of, I mean, I think there's a purist approach that would say we should write, different, specs here, and how long this gets is, that's maybe another discussion to have. But if I run the RSpec now, we've got the same. Sorry, say that again. Uh, to do. Oh yeah, as the implementation underlying it. Oh yeah, we could push a number of things onto it. Oh, we could, sure. I mean, it's I'm just going at the lowest level. But if we look, if at the simplest, you know, that's certainly something we can add as refactoring. But so if we look here, the picture now, pop should pop off the last thing, and we're now getting, so this expectation is passed because we're getting 7 back, but this one here is failing because now we want to get a 6 back, but we don't. So now we're going to need to modify stack in some way so that it does more what we want. Now, Sunil, can you think of a way to modify the stack.rb so that it is yeah? So that's one thing we could do. So we're going to change that to a 6, and I'll rerun that. Now the thing is that that will now fail, unfortunately, in this way. So that's, that in principle that would work. I mean, I guess actually that would be a good thing here in some ways to, at the moment we can't see the fact that one is passing because basically,
7 and 6.
yeah, was it expected 7 and it got 6. So
It is
that's
expecting both 7 and 6.
yeah. So this is, you
So
see,
are we allowed to print or put 6 and 7 at the same time?
well, we're basically, I mean, you're familiar with the concept of a stack, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I am, I suppose.
yeah. So the idea is that with the stack, we should be able to push any arbitrary thing onto it, and then we're able to
Uh-huh.
pop that thing off. So we want to be able to push a seven onto it, and if we push a seven off it and then we pop it, we should get the seven back. And if we want to push a
Yeah.
six onto it, then we should be able to pop that and then get a six back, right?
We should still be getting seven first, I guess, because
Well, yeah. Well, I guess the thing here
it's
is
in first out.
we're in a situation here where we can no longer hard code like the we can no longer hard code the solution. I mean the hard coded solution was kind of is ultimately not what we want. We want a dynamic system that depending on what's being pushed onto it, we want to have. So is that so? Who's typing now? Who's who's done the at first equals true? Okay,
Oh, I have no idea about that.
no, the seven. Okay, so Michael's come up with another sort of devious approach that might work. Let's see. That's still. Oh, sorry. Oh, you haven't finished. Yeah. Oh, right. You're gonna set that to false after you first. You need to. I think. Don't you need to return? I think that's also not going to work, isn't it? Yeah, that still fails because it returns false. You need to return. You need to assign what you're going to. You need to assign a return argument on line 8. Okay. So that will now. It's. I think it's maybe the wrong way round. That's the first is true. I would have thought it was. I thought it was seven first. Uh, what is it? It is seven first. For some, maybe it hasn't saved yet. Hold on. Stack RB. Let me run it again. Yeah, I'm still getting a failure there. It says on stack spec line 9. It's getting seven both times. Uh, I think that the first. I mean, there's this kind of weird thing with Ruby. I think it always trips me up about how you're supposed to reference, instance variables. Um, that seems to be basically returning the seven both times. Uh, I think if we define the instance I think what we need to have is to make this approach work is we need def. Oh, it's not new, isn't it? It's initialize. And yeah, there's this weird thing. This always trip. Yeah, this is always trips me up. I think. Let me just see if that
It
now.
it might work if they were class variables. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, that now works. I think there's this thing where some like defining um, an instance variable just raw like you would do in Java doesn't work, and it does something else that I can't quite remember what it does. But yes, so basically this thing we need to do here anyway. So yeah, so Michael has now deviously constructed a rather convoluted approach here in order to make this work. Is this me making any sense to you at all, Sunil, or how are you doing?
Yes, it will print out seven. And
The first time,
if
and
seven is in six the second time,
yeah. Now, but would you say that this is doing what a proper stack should do?
no, it's I mean still the method pop should only give seven or six. So for that, I think it should work.
Oh yes, no, and it does work, and it passes the thing. But we would,
But
but it's not. We would agree that it's not yet a proper stack, right? We're still kind of, we're teasing the specification, um,
yeah,
and I mean, actually, in some ways, I would argue that there is well, I guess is this the simplest? One could be just set it. You could, for example. another way of just doing this would be to do this and then do this. Or you could just do, and this would actually be slightly more robust, but will it's still not good, but it will. So I mean, we could kind of go off like I mean, there's different things there. I guess I'm sort of looking at the time. One, we could go off, and I think what Michael was leading towards is that we'd have a loop, and we'd push it. We'd like push lots and lots of different things onto the stack, and then pop them, and sort of have expectations about them. But I think this is a kind of you know avoiding the particular switches. This is sort of a partial implementation that passes this setup, right? But it's still not quite a stack by our definition, is it? This is like a kind of a one-item array with no depth. So maybe Dan or Michael, would you like to try and change the spec in order to expose the flaws in my approach here for doing the stack?
Maybe you want to, or should I?
Yeah, either or.
Sounds like Michael's taking the lead. Maybe
I think that should do it, right?
oh yeah, I think that's a good one. I think we want the we should expect the 6. I mean, this is assuming that it's a first in first out stack.
Yeah,
We should just expect that way. There we go. So now we get a failure like so. Sunil, does it make sense to you why that's failed now?
I think should I change the code?
No. Well, but you could change some code. I was just going to say, does it make sense
Oh,
now what Michael did to the spec, how he changed the spec, and why that's now failing?
I think that expect should be above the stack push.
Well, that's how we had it initially, and we weren't properly defining the stack. I think the expectation is now how a stack is something that we can push multiple things onto. So it's like a bag that you can put, like, say you had a long thin tube as a bag, and you put in an orange, and then you put in an apple, and you put in a lemon. Then you would take off a lemon, and then you take off an apple, and then you take an orange. So that's what this is doing here. Is it's putting a 7 into our stack. It's putting a 6 in there, and then we do have the expectation that 6 should come off, and then 7 should come off. So this is actually describing more like what a stack should do. Of course, it's only testing the. Oh, go on. I'm sorry.
First, we need to pop 7 because 7 is pushed the first time.
Well, seven is pushed. It depends on the type of stack, right? There's different kinds of stacks. There's a first in, first out, and there's a last in, first out. So the one we're sort of going for, which is sort of the default stack, is the first. Is it? Was it? No, it's a last. No, what are we
Last
doing?
in, first out.
Last in, first out, right? So we pushed 7, and then we pushed 6 on top of it, and then we popped something off. So we expect to get a 6, and then we pop something off to get a 7, right? So this is an accurate description of what a stack that has at least that can support at least 2 elements should do, right? But our current stack doesn't support that. Can you see why our current implementation of stack is not supporting what we hope the stack should do? And don't worry if you don't know. I mean, I'm sort of putting you on the spot here, but this is sort of part of the exercise. But don't be afraid to say that you're not sure. I guess so. Does the specification make sense to you?
Do you want me to change something in stack.rb?
Well, you could do. I guess I'm asking you first to talk about what's wrong with the current implementation. Maybe you find it difficult to.
Everything seems right in stack underscore spec.
Yes, no, the spec is correct. I think the spec is better than it has been so far. We've improved the spec. In the stack, can you tell me why the current stack doesn't work for that spec?
everything seems right.
Oh, okay. Oh, really? So the stack seems fine. No, no, okay, no, fair enough. Dan, do you want to take a go at changing the stack so that it would actually pass this specification?
Yep.
Great. Okay. So if you save that, I'll run the spec locally. Okay, yeah, and that passes. Okay. So now, Sunil, do you see what Dan has done?
Taking a look.
But so the key
I
thing
didn't
is,
get
go on, go on.
I didn't get what he did inside.
No.
Just
Well, maybe. Well, let me explain what we were doing previously. Is I'd set it up so that when we push something on, we just
yeah.
assigned, that variable to that thing. We said the thing that you've pushed on, like previously we had push item, and I had something like at item equals item. Oh, don't mute me. I had like at item equals item. So basically, it was only storing one thing, and then I was just giving that back. So if I pushed on one thing and then another thing, it would forget the first thing that I pushed on. Right? It was repeatedly overwriting the single instance variable that it had. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what Dan changed it to do is he changed it so that the stack is now wrapping an array, or this is our stack class, is wrapping an array, and then when we get an item, he's going to push that item onto the array, right? And so that's going to go down as many deep as it needs to. And then the array class actually already has a pop method. I mean, it has a push method, it has a pop method. I mean, this sort of,
He's doing it recursively.
he's doing it what, sorry?
Recursively.
Well, he's not doing it recursively because this store thing is actually an array. This is like an existing Ruby class called array that already has these methods. So the store pop here is not, it's not calling it recursively. It's just calling the method. We're using composition here to have an array inside our class stack and use that to provide.
Push and pop.
Yeah, and we're using that to. Yeah, so this is kind of, it's sort of, we don't ever really need to write the class stack so much in Ruby because it's already there for us. But that's why this is sort of an exercise. But so there, now that the way Dan's rewritten it, it now works and it passes our spec. Of course, the spec could have been handled by something that only stored two things, and So, Michael, do you just want to adjust the spec for putting 20 things onto the stack or whatever you were imagining with the loop?
Hold on.
But so while Michael's doing that, so Sunil, but does so how the stack is working now make more sense to you, or it's
Yeah. Yes, it does.
oh, good show. Um, so I guess you're going to push each of those things on, and then we can. Right, yes, you can do another loop here. So this is a much more rigorous test of the stack, where we're going to push 10 things onto it, and then we're going to you want pop doesn't take any arguments there. I think you just want anyway. I'm sure Michael will sort it out at the moment.
Yeah, good.
I think the pipes go after do, by the way.
I think you might be right, actually, Dan.
Always confusing.
I'll just get rid of that stuff for you there. Interesting. We seem to be able. We can actually both edit the file at the same time, which is an interesting functionality we don't get in Screen Hero. There we go. Cool. So we save that and we run RSpec, and in fact that passes because we had over-engineered our solution. So there we go. So I think that's probably pretty much time for me to wrap up. Sunil, so that was the thing that we started working on. We could go on defining other expectations about our stack that it had other methods like peak. We could be changing these numbers and making them more rigorous and recursive and so on. Well, not recursive, but go to greater lengths, whatever we thought was the appropriate level of handling it. Are there any questions or thoughts based on the TDD session here?
Yes, start at me. No, I have no question. I have to look through the codes once again,
Yeah.
I guess.
Okay. Well, yeah, and I'll push this into the GitHub repo, and maybe you can take a look at it. Dan and Michael, any thoughts?
I think this Madeye plugin's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's got some nice features. It works well with like a little small project here. We were having trouble running it in Rails, and then we were like, here I'm running RSpec in the directory that's being synced by Madeye, and that's no problem here. When we were doing it with the big Ruby on Rails project and running Cucumber features, the Madeye thing was like running out of memory. Yeah.
It'd be great if it would sync your command line like tmux, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Place.
Yeah, what would be nice is if there was sort of like a screen or Tmux like plugin for Google Hangouts. You just see the whole thing. I mean, this has not worked too badly here with me pasting these relatively short error messages into group chat, but the group chat doesn't seem to be really set up for that. It would be very nice to have. Yeah, you really want to sort of just. I mean, in fact, it seems like there isn't any particular reason why it couldn't be streaming just the outputs of my command line to another window here. Really. Anyway, I think it's under development, so. We'll see what they add in future. Cool. All right. Well, thanks, guys, for taking part in that, and I look forward to pairing with you again real soon.
Thank you, Sam.
So,
All
yeah,
right.
thanks.
Dan,
Cheers.
thank you.
Bye.